stars of night. I will make their darkness bright. Who will bear my light to them? Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. I have heard your calling in the night. I will go, Lord, where you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I, the Lord of snow and rain, I have borne my people's pain. I have wept for love of them, and now inside I show them joy unknown. Give them hearts from love alone. I will speak my words to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, where you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I'm the Lord of wind and flame. I will tend the poor and lame. I will set a feast for them. My hand will say, finest bread I will provide, till their hearts be satisfied. I will give my life to them. Whom shall I send? Here I am, Lord. It is I, Lord. I have heard you calling in the night. I will go, Lord, where you lead me. I will hold your people in my heart. I will hold your people in my heart.
We're here to nurture a deep and abiding relationship with the divine. We do that through the practice and application of unity principles. Quite simply, we're here to love and to grow and to learn and to expand who we are. So we're grateful for your presence here today. We're grateful that we can be together in spiritual community. I'm going to start preaching already, and I should not do that. I'm grateful. I'll just say it at that. If you're visiting us for the first time, we want to say welcome. We're glad you're here. We hope you'll avail yourself of the opportunities this community provides, not the least of which is Potluck Sunday, so we invite you to join us after the service for lunch and to meet some of these wonderful people. Also want to make you aware we have a ministry of prayer that's here to serve you. You can fill out prayer requests. They're located in the lobby and or going online, and you can complete a request there. So we have a lot of things going on in the community and more to come. So get ready. We won't do everything in announcements because we would not have time for me to talk, and you know I get cranky if I don't get to talk. So, but do want to make you aware of a few things. First of all, this Saturday, for those interested, we do a Welcome to Unity of Charlotte orientation. So we would love for you to come find out more about us. Let us find out more about you. We'll share with you how we're organizing and designing and talk about membership, but it's not a requirement for you to become a member. We just like to give you the information so that if that calls to your heart, you're allowed to do so. Then I'm trying to assess if there's a demand for, well, apparently not. Blew out the whole... Okay, I'll take that as a sign. Offering another Connect group for those who are interested in facilitating an intention group when we launch our Connect groups in just a few weeks. And so if that's of interest to you, I'll start another 3-week series for those interested. And if you are interested, if you would let me know, so there's some sign-up sheets you'll see right there in the lobby as you go out these doors, and we'll have another experience. It's been absolutely wonderful. I'm so grateful that I get to teach what I always need to learn to know. So I'm grateful for students. Also, then, of course, we have our World Day of Prayer, Unity World Day of Prayer, coming up on September 12th. Our community will be joining with the larger worldwide effort. One of our wonderful Connect groups has decided that they would like to host a day of prayer here, and so we're having a vigil of prayer, which will be from 4 to 7 on the 12th, and then we'll have a service with several of the other New Thought communities at 7 o'clock. So we invite you. It's open to anyone that would like to be here. There will be people to pray with you if you want to come for the vigil. It's going to be lovely. And then, but wait, there's more, as they say. Then on Saturday the 12th, there's going to be a picnic at Park Road Park. What did I say? Don't listen to what I say. 14th? What did I say? Well, so don't listen to me, right? It's on there. What are you listening to me for? On the 14th, that Saturday, from 12 to 6, we'll be having a picnic. We invite you to come. Bring your own basket of food. There'll be games and merrymaking and music. And so just a wonderful opportunity to be in the community and in the larger New Thought community. On the 20th, we're going to move our sound bath to that Friday, because we have another very cool thing happening the following weekend, which is the Crystal Light Healing Bed. People will be in town. John of God people, pretty cool stuff. So have a workshop. So this month, third Sunday, and then third Friday. Just don't even listen to my heart. Listen to my heart, okay? It's not easy. And then, do I have art of facilitation? Yes. So then, for those who would like to be facilitators or hone your skills, I'm offering a 3-week workshop. That's for people interested in doing Connect groups, teaching in our youth program, teaching in general. I realize that in my storied career, I've collected a few tools that I'm willing to share with you. And so that will happen on September 21st, Saturday from 10 to 1. Love to have you be part of that. Always helpful if you'll pre-register. So that's not everything. That's just some of the stuff. So it's all good. So I'd like to now begin our inward journey as we simply take a moment to breathe into this moment. As we allow ourselves to remember that there is one life, one power, one God, one infinite being, one presence. And as we open our hearts this day to that presence of unconditional love, we are reminded that divine life is seeking its highest expression through us and as us. And how grateful am I that we have this opportunity to be together, to listen to the divine promptings, to allow Spirit to guide and direct our lives and our activities. I'm grateful for each person that contributes so generously to this spiritual community. I am grateful for the presence of God that is revealing itself through each person, through each activity, through Unity of Charlotte in general, and making itself known in the world. So as we allow something to happen today, we allow that divine voice to speak more clearly, to love more fully, to serve more graciously. And so we give thanks for this day, for all of those who help prepare the way. We know it unfolds in joy, in love, and in compassion. So with gratitude, I simply am giving thanks, releasing this word into that power of the Christ mind, knowing it goes forth to bless and to heal. As together we say, and so it is. Amen. So today is a little different in our format and in our offerings. Somebody said that necessity is a mother. Is that? I'm paraphrasing. No, what they said is necessity is the mother of invention. And so as it turned out, we had a wonderful opportunity. My little goddess of light and love, Rita, in case you didn't know, said, I have these mustard seeds. As we've been talking about sowing and reaping and all that, and I was like, bring them on down. Now, first of all, so I hope you all got mustard seeds. You should get 2. Now, first of all, I'm impressed that somebody had the whatever it took to get 2 into a bag. That's pretty impressive in itself, but I'm grateful for your presence and all you bring. This will make sense as we go along. And then our wonderful sound bath folks are on Friday, those of you who come for the Friday night meditation and chakra alignment thing, which is just phenomenal. I asked if they might leave our bowls today. So we're going to do a little different exercise. Our special music is us today and the beauty of the bowls. So this will make more sense as we go along, but I just want to know the format's going to be a little different today. So I'd like to start with a reading today from my friend, mid-tour, although I've never met him, he speaks to my soul, Dr. Howard Thurman. And I've read this many times, but it always speaks to me at the appropriate time. I've adapted his words to be gender inclusive. I don't think he would mind. So this is called A Seed Upon the Wind. A person without God is a seed upon the wind. What a picture. A tiny, living thing awaiting its moment of fulfillment. Caught up in the movement of tremendous energy, it is at the mercy of forces that are not responsive to its own ends. There is a grand unconscious vitality unfolding with mounting energy, its impersonal purpose. In the grip of something like this, what is a tiny seed? No more than a particle of dust, a nameless nothing. Here is the abandonment of all purpose, stark helplessness without mooring or anchor. The fact that there is locked within the seed a private world of pattern and design makes no difference to the fierce velocities that sweep in on the reckless, relentless way. A person without God is a seed upon the wind. She is a victim of the currents of life that carry her where they will, with a bland unmindfulness of purposes and ends which belong to her as a living, thinking, feeling creature. It means that such a person has no sense of center. He takes his clue to all meaning and values from the passing moment, the transitory event, and the immediate issue of his day. The Master speaks of this in his direct question, what would a person give in exchange for his soul? But there is a sense in which a person with God is a seed upon the wind. The person who has made the primary surrender, the commitment, the yielding to God at the core of one's being. This is one who has relaxed his or her will to exercise and hold firm the initiative over one's own life. This does not come without exacting struggle of the soul. One by one, the outposts of one's spirit are captured, retaken, and lost again. Through hours, months, even years of warfare, until at last the very citadel of one's spirit is under siege and one is subjected to utter yielding. There follows often the long silence when nothing stirs. Then out of the quiet of one's vanquished spirit, something stirs, and a new life emerges that belongs more to God than to self. The movement now rests with purposes that are beyond the little purposes, with ends that transcend the private ends, the purposes and ends of God. There is a sense in which a person with God is a seed upon the wind. So I use that as our launching point today. I am reminded that life is amazing. And so I was reflecting and looking back through some notes and realized that it's almost the 2-year anniversary of the first Sunday that I spoke here. It's the 1st of October. And I was experiencing being the seed upon the wind that had a purpose, listening for what is that greater purpose that I don't understand. You see, because what I have discovered is that I have spent time in my life trying to design my life exactly the way I want it. You ever do that? What is that phrase that our plans are the butt of God's jokes, right? That sometimes we think we're going to experience life in a certain way, and then life shows up for us differently than we had expected. And so in that primary surrender, when we learn through exacting struggle to allow our life to be more God's life than our own life, which is to say that we are willing to be open and receptive to our highest and best good, even if it doesn't match our picture of how that should look. That we're willing to open ourselves to this divine something that is calling us forward. And so I began kind of reflecting over the last couple of years. A lot of things happened. And it's been amazing when you think about it, that when we're willing to trust the divine, then our highest good reveals itself. So in our process of spiritual growth and awareness, sometimes we need to expand ourselves. So I wanted to talk a little bit about a bigger universe and a greater God. So here's the deal. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's a big universe, and it's an awesome God. So in truth, we're not expanding the universe, but we are expanding ourselves in the context of the divine. Does that make sense? In other words, we're not adding more to what God is, but we may be adding or allowing more of what God is to be expressed and revealed in our lives. And so when we are doing that, what we begin to understand is that the limitations that we're experiencing in life are not because the divine would have us experience limitation. They are not because there's some force or factor that is preventing our greater good. The universe, this divine intelligence, seeks its highest expression always. And so because we know this, We can plant seeds with full faith that they will grow into plants. We do not have to add our wisdom to the inherent wisdom of a seed. We don't need to advise, suggest, cajole. There is a wisdom inherent in every seed. There is a divine intelligence. So some people speak of the God seed that is within us, that spark of the divine that knows how to reveal itself, how to express itself, how to become itself, if we would but nurture and cultivate the environment for which greater good can happen. We are taught of the principle of cause and effect. Spoke about it just last week. That there is a causal aspect to all things that result in an effect. And we are learning as spiritual beings to work from a causal level. In other words, trying to solve the problem at the level of the problem rarely works. And yet when I look around the world at the level of dialogue that is happening, rarely does anyone talk about what is causing the problems. In our wonderful intention group, which I've loved being a part of and which is very exciting, and I hope you'll enroll in one of them because it's an amazing and wonderful and exciting experience just to lovingly support each other in our highest good. But in that we talk about what is the intention that we hold for our life. In other words, who do I want to become? Not what do I want to have, not to what do I want to do, but who do I want to become? And in the becoming, as we recognize those spiritual qualities of love and beauty and joy and abundance, then from the intention, we follow it with action. Because otherwise, it's just a divine idea. Now, what I love and what those who have been in the class with me and as they're teaching will recognize that so often when we're sharing, here's my intention for my life, here's who I want to become, and here's the steps I'm going to take, then the group sort of has a natural tendency to move towards, well, what kind of exercise program? Have you heard about this or that or this or that, right? We love to move into action. Like, okay, and I could dial it back. That's not our job. Our job is to hold that intention for each other and allow our partners to figure out their pathway of understanding. But you see, we like to solve things at the level of the problem. We like to think that more money will solve a money problem, and a new relationship will solve a relationship problem. Or I always joke when I was young, I always moved. I moved a lot, thinking that if I found the right place to live, I would experience happiness. And I moved a lot. Because you know the phrase, wherever I go, there I am. And so I kept showing up in this new place. And so it was when I came into these teachings and began to realize that who I am determines my experience of life. And if I want to change that experience, I need to change that relationship that I hold with myself and with the divine. I believed in a God that rewarded and punished. I believed in a God that loved some more than others. I believed in a God that was limited. But God was never limited. Just my understanding of the divine. And so I began to expand my concepts, my relationship, this understanding that God can only do for us what he or she will do through us. You see, there's so many passages in our Bible that speak to sowing and reaping. And as I always like to say, I don't think this is a manual on agriculture. I think the masters always teach in the technology of the time, right? So Chinese medicine is based on irrigation. because that's what they were doing, and they saw the flow and how you direct the flow. And so it makes sense that Jesus would speak in terms that people would understand because they were sowing and reaping. It was an agricultural society. Today, we have divine downloads. You won't find that in the Bible, right? Because we understand that. Somebody said, Moses was the first one to download from the cloud onto his tablet. I know, sorry. You guys got to put up with it, I'm sorry. Right? So in a loving universe, we begin to understand that the limitation is not in the divine, not in God, but in ourselves. And so the real work is expanding our own concepts, learning to love ourselves. You see, I believed in a love that had to be earned. I believed that I was not worthy. And because of those beliefs, I created situations and circumstances that would appear to reinforce the belief. Right? 'Cause that's what we do. It was when I developed that new relationship, I began to understand what it says in Galatians when it says, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatever a person sows, that shall they reap." Whatever we are putting out there is coming back to us. Whatever we are cultivating is making itself known in our life. And so it's not the divine playing tricks on us. It's simply allowing something magnificent to happen through us. And so we ask ourselves, what am I planting? What am I sowing? Where am I spending my time, my energy, my focus, my attention? When we are focused on the problems of our world or of our life, we tend to create more problems. What has our attention becomes our experience. And so we're not saying that we want to just go into denial and pretend like nothing's happening around us. There's a lot happening around us, including yet another hurricane. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued that there's a massive hurricane, one of many, heading somewhere, north, south, east, west, who knows, they predict, and then it's like, oh, but today it's whatever. So, right? And so I've seen some of my spiritual friends get on Facebook and say, let's hold an intention that it goes someplace else. Let's solve the problem at the level of the problem, they are saying, in other words. And I'm saying, why don't we begin to look at what's causing these experiences to happen, these disruptions in climate? That's a causal aspect, right? The higher question we always want to look at is not what is the situation, but what is it within me or what is it within us that is creating an environment that this is happening? And then elevating our consciousness. Now, I'm all for prayer. Pray for anything. Pray whenever you want. Pray everywhere. I'm good. But let us look within our own selves that, again, in Matthew, it says, "You shall know them by their fruits." Do men gather grapes from thorns or figs from thistles? If we plant thorns, I guess thorns have seeds, I don't know, then we get more thorns. We don't get grapes. And yet we sometimes go, why is this happening? Why is this happening? I say, I don't know. But my guess is somehow we're participating in an environment that allows something to happen. So how do I limit God? You see, if I believe myself unworthy, if I believe myself unlovable, If I believe myself undeserving, then by my belief, I limit the activity of God that can happen in my life. I saw it so many times as I was growing up because I had an early belief that said success is not good. Now, it's not a logical belief. Turns out most beliefs aren't. They're not logical, but they're implanted in such a way that they feel real to us. And so when think greater good would come into my life, then something would happen, usually me, that would make it go away. Because I had not expanded my consciousness to create the environment for my greater good to be revealed. So I was limiting the divine in the sense, not that I limited the divine in any way, but I limited the activity of the divine in my life through my own limitation. And so the most classic of Scripture, talking Christian Scripture here, by the way, there's many kinds. And the most widely known probably is Matthew 17:20, when Jesus said to us, "Because you have so little faith, truly I tell you, if you have faith like a grain of mustard seed, you can say to that mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible to you." So what does it mean? What does it mean to have the faith of a grain of mustard seed? So you have in front of you a mustard seed. These are tiny, which was the point. That from the tiniest thing, a massive plant, a massive bush comes forward. And so what he's teaching us, I believe, this is not literal. We're not going to actually move mountains, physical mountains, but the mountains that we have created in our lives, we hold in place because we often believe they are supposed to be there. Right? And so the Master is saying, if you would have but the simplest faith, the faith of this simple seed, you take this little seed and you plant it and you nurture it and you cultivate it, and it will grow into a magnificent plant. Isn't that amazing? It does not ask itself, well, I don't know. Really? Do I deserve all this space on the patio? Is it too much? What will the other seeds think? Why couldn't I be a cumin seed? Right? The seed does not do that. It says, I have a purpose. I have a reason for being. And my reason for being is imbued in who I am. And if I will cultivate and find the right environment, then I will grow into my divine self. That's all. Simple. But no. We got free will that allowed us to question and ask and wonder why. See that passage in the Bible where Adam and Eve, it's kind of a new universe we're living in. Adam and Eve are hanging out. Lovely, naked, having fun. Why wouldn't you? Lovely environment. It's a garden. And in the garden, there is the tree of life. The divine tree. And then there's another tree. Now, Eve, for all these years, has gotten a really bad rap on this, but it is what it is. In this other garden, there is a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Duality. Tree of life, unity. tree of knowledge of good and evil, duality. And it says, don't eat of the fruit of that tree. Now they're new to the planet. They haven't developed the consciousness of the rest of us. So of course, if you say, don't eat the fruit, what are you going to do? You're going to have at least a little taste, right? And so they do, and now they experience their nakedness. Like, oh, look, we're naked. Oh, look, we're going to suffer, right? So again, these wonderful allegories, these wonderful myths about, oh, if I'm in the place of unity, then I simply experience the goodness, the wholeness, the beauty, the love of life. But when I move into my dualistic thinking, where I want to judge right and wrong and good and bad and them and us and all of those other things, that's where our suffering comes from, isn't it? Learning to just open ourselves and love what is the greatest gift. It's been an interesting experience for me to be here as I'm kind of reflecting over these last couple of years, because I came with a vision and I keep working towards that vision, a shared vision. And there are times when I can clearly see. And there are times when I think, right? Do you do that in your life? It didn't just go poof. Here's my vision. Thank you. It's been a process. And so that's why we go back to our vision over and over. That's why we must know our intention more than our actions. If we know what's behind the thing we're trying to accomplish, then we discover that there's many pathways to that fulfillment. Then we can get out of the way and allow something better to happen. And so the universe is infinite, and the expansion must take place within ourselves. We have to expand our concept of the divine. We have to work on our relationship with the divine. We must be willing to allow God to be God in our lives. So I love this passage from Howard Thurman when he talks about that moment of primary surrender, when our lives belong more to God than to self. It's a very humbling place, and we do not get there, my friends, without the struggle of the ego. I don't know about your ego, but my ego wants to be in charge. My ego has a very firm opinion about most things, and my ego believes it's right about virtually everything. I'm sure yours is a much more loving and forgiving ego, but mine, full-blown. And so when we come into this, that struggle is about releasing those limitations that the ego places upon us to open to the fullness of God. I'm in a very biblical mood today, if you hadn't noticed. And it says, then, I'm going to Revelations. We don't always do that, but we're going there. And then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, look, God's dwelling place is now among the people, and he will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. And he who is seated at the throne says, I will make all things new. Now, those of you who grew up in a tradition as I did may be feeling a little twitchy right now. It's okay. Hear these words from a higher consciousness. We're not talking about places. We're not talking about destination. We're not talking about a God that punishes. But we are talking about that when we make that surrender, the new heaven and new earth are here, and the divine dwells among us. The divine has always dwelt among us, but we did not see it. We did not see it. We were eating from the fruit of the knowledge of good and evil. When we return to the tree of life, we hear those words, "This is my beloved child in whom I am well pleased." We hear those words that the masters have taught us of our divine origin. And we recognize and know our purpose is to bring that consciousness that we call heaven to this earthly reality. How good is this to know? How wonderful, how magnificent. So we have the opportunity to expand our consciousness. My friend Jerry is going to help me with this little process. In front of you, you see 2 mustard seeds. Why 2? One explanation is that's the way Rita gave them to me. But 2, but the divine explanation is she was guided by divinity to do such a thing, because here's what I want us to think about as we move through this exercise. One of those seeds represents what's on your heart for who you want to become. The other seed has to do with something outside of yourself. It may represent our church. It may represent your community. It may represent your family. It may represent the planet on which we live. There's something in your heart that is calling you to serve. We're looking at serving with grace this month. So I want us to plant 2 seeds today. One holding a high intention for yourself. One holding a high intention for that which calls to your heart. You willing to do so? So Jerry, if you could make the meditation music happen, as you so magically do. So grateful for Jerry and Susan. They put this whole thing together every Friday night, and it's just an amazing experience, right? And so I just invite you to close your eyes. As we go through this process, I'm going to guide you. Jerry's going to begin ringing the bowls. And so this is not a linear think this thing through process. This is just to allow yourself to be in the evolution. Now these bowls represent each one of the chakras in the body. You may or may not believe in any of that. Don't matter. Just be present for it. See what happens. We invite ourselves into that sacred place of awareness and understanding, into that remembrance of who we are. As we clarify the purpose for each of these seeds, that which is within me that wants to be expressed more fully, and that which I wish to contribute to the world. Dual seeds planted in this moment. The ego might say, well, how will I ever do that? And we would say to the ego, settle down. You'll have your time again. But for now, we're simply going to allow ourselves to commune with the living Spirit, with that tree of life, with that recognition that life seeks to reveal itself. And as we take these seeds metaphorically in hand, we recognize how important it is to cultivate the soil. How important it is to recognize that where we plant these seeds is what allows them to grow. As we plant these seeds in that rich, dark soil, we're knowing that it is our responsibility to nurture, to water, to cultivate. It is not our job to make it grow. It is not our job to figure out how a seed becomes a plant. It is our job to know that if we work with universal laws of intelligence, the seed reveals itself into expression. How grateful we are to plant these seeds today. We are reminded of those words. These are my beloved children, in whom I am well pleased. The universe delights in its self-expression. And so we know that all that is necessary for the full and complete expression of that divine idea is already provided. And we contemplate that seed that we are planting of what we wish to bring to the world, of how our service impacts the greater good. Again, the ego may respond with questions, limitations. It's okay. We're simply remembering in this moment that the universe knows how to fulfill itself. And so we are cultivating, we are allowing, we are revealing. Simply allow yourself to imagine, to feel, to sense, to see, to hear this higher dimension. And we ask ourselves, who must I become in order to reveal this? We ask ourselves, what must I release so that this vision, this seed can fully adapt? What is it time to let go of? What weeding needs to be taking place in the garden of my mind? We are reminded that there is no effort. We are not trying to make something happen. We are simply listening to the divine promptings and allowing it to be so. The universe delights in its self-expression. We will be told everything we ought to know. We will be guided in that which is necessary. And so just as if we had the faith of a mustard seed, which is to say, I trust that the divine intelligence within me knows how to go forth and be a blessing in the world. How grateful I am. How grateful I am to be in this place of awareness with you. To lovingly support you as you support me in the divine fulfillment. For this is what spiritual community allows. We hold those high intentions. We lovingly serve each other, love each other, grow with each other, that we might have a greater experience of heaven on earth. And so I bless each person here. I bless each person who your lives touch. I bless this planet on which we live. I bless the brotherhood and sisterhood of all humanity. We stand at a time of profound awakening. And so we allow that light to shine brightly through us. We have spent enough time eating the fruits of the knowledge of good and evil. So today we return to the tree of life, to the source and substance of who we are. We allow that to come forth, to be a blessing not only to ourselves, but to all those whom we meet. And so I'm giving thanks. I am giving thanks. I'm giving thanks for the universal intelligence that knows how to take the divine idea that we have planted here together to bring it forth for the highest good of all concerned. And so in joy and in profound gratitude, I simply allow it to be so. As together we say, and so it is. Amen. Beautiful. Thank you. And thank you, Jerry. You're just the best. Our choir, everybody that serves here is amazing. So while they're doing that, I have one last reading, another Howard Thurman. It's the complement to the first one. And then we'll do our prayer of protection, and we'll sing our peace song, and then we'll have lunch. Life is good. Again, adapted. This one's called Whatsoever a Person Soweth. I watched him for a long time. He was so busily engaged in his task that he did not notice my approach until he heard my voice. Then he raised himself erect with all the dignity of a man who had exhausted the cup of haste to the very dregs. He was an old man. As I discovered before our conversation was over, he was a full 81 years. Further talk between us revealed that he was planting a small grove of pecan trees. The little treelets were not more than 2.5 or 3 feet in height, and so my curiosity was unbounded. Why did you not select larger trees as to increase the possibility of your living to see them bear at least 1 cup of fruit nuts? And he fixed his eyes directly on me, with no particular point of focus, but with a gaze that took in the totality of my features. And finally he said, "These small trees are cheaper, and I have very little money. So you do not expect to see the trees reach sufficient maturity to bear fruit?" No. But is that important? All my life I have eaten fruit from trees I did not plant. And so why should I not plant trees to bear fruit for those who may enjoy them long after I have gone? Besides, the person who plants because she will reap the harvest has no faith in life. Years have passed that sunny afternoon in Georgia when those words were said. Again and again, the thought has come back to me. Besides, the person who plants because she will reap the harvest has no faith in life. The fact is that much of life is made up of reaping where we have not sown and planting where we shall never reap. No person gathers merely the crop that he or she has planted. Let us serve with grace. Please stand and join me for our prayer of protection and to sing the peace song. Thank you for being a blessing in my life. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Now there is peace on earth, and it has begun with me. Now there is peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as Creator, united all are we. Now we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Peace has begun.